Hello, I'm Mantastic'c and Fantastic, and today I'm going to be answering all of your questions from the January question time video. So, first things first, we have Michael Chen saying, first, LOL, Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you as well, Michael, and also congrats on being the first to leave a comment. My Tidra asks, they work as a nurse, so they have a question. What is my opinion on the Canadian healthcare system versus the American? They know that we here in America are horrible with healthcare. Just want to see how my experience cost with Canadian system is. Love my videos. Thanks and hope I get better. Thank you. I appreciate your well wishes, my Tidra. So my experience with the Canadian healthcare system is it's great when you need to save your life, there's an emergency, so on and so forth. If I have some sort of medical emergency, I am not afraid to dial 911 and have an ambulance pick me up and take me to the hospital. The Canadian healthcare system is great at saving your life, and there's no cost really to the user in that sense. But the problem occurs when you need non-life-saving services, because many of them you may get for free potentially, but you may have tremendously long wait times. For myself, after I got injured, I went through a myriad of different health programs. It took me like a year for some scans and tests. It took me 3 years to get into a certain pain clinic that's supposed to be the best in British Columbia. And it's just a lot of wait time. Of course, you could potentially expedite by paying more money, but then we're just kind of like at the American healthcare system where everything costs a bunch. Furthermore, lots of things are not covered, unfortunately. For instance, when I was undergoing prolotherapy, unpleasant experience overall. It's cost me like, I don't know, was it like a couple $1,000s every time? I can't remember. It was an astronomically high cost and it didn't work. So a lot of the stuff, like I said, you can get your life saved and you won't be paying like a monstrous bill. You could be in the hospital for life-saving things and you're okay, but anything afterwards that's not saving your life, rehabilitation, it's all out of pocket. So there's definitely more pros, I'd say, than cons, but there's still some things that are not quite where I'd like them to be, obviously, from my own situation. Vera Dioc says, Happy New Year, Mantastic. Would love to know what kind of music I listen to. Some of my favorite songs, albums. Ranking them is not necessary since they suppose I understand how difficult it can be, but it would be nice. Alrighty, so I'm kind of like in two different schools of thought, so to speak, for music, because growing up, I didn't like music when I was young, and then when I was in like my mid-teens or so, I discovered classic rock, and then my whole world changed because classic rock is, well, a classic for a reason, and I absolutely fell in love with Supertramp's Crime of the Century. So you might think, why is this so big? Well, it's actually because it's a vinyl record. Like, it is a vinyl record. I have a working turntable. It's actually my mom's turntable from the 80s. It still works. The speakers had to be replaced once, but the turntable and the amplifier still work. And in my opinion, this is the greatest album of all time. It tells a story. There are 8 songs, and every 2 songs kind of tell like a different almost chapter of said story. And furthermore, Supertramp, I feel like this is like the peak of Supertramp's albums. Like, I do love Breakfast in America. I know it by heart as well. But I feel like with Crime of the Century, it tells a better story. And they do a great job of balancing the 2 different voices, because Supertramp has 2 different lead singers and they just blend together so seamlessly on this album. I recommend you take a listen to it if you can. Have the lyrics as well, because like I said, it does tell a story. And my favorite song from that album is actually Hide in Your Shell, because of the story and meaning behind it. But over time, my taste in classic rock has obviously evolved. I've got like ELO, like Electric Light Orchestra, David Bowie. I have some of the Cars. I have lots of Genesis, quite a bit of Pink Floyd as well. And I was listening to only like vinyl records for years and years, and then I met Pancake, and then Pancake showed me the beautiful ways of Spotify, because I never had Spotify up until this point. And I was able to buy vinyl records relatively cheap, because back, when I was like 15 or so, that's 15 plus years ago, back then, vinyl records were actually incredibly inexpensive. I actually bought several copies of some albums just to stick on the wall as wall art, because it's like $2 to $5. So it was a great deal. Like, I got an album to listen to, and I have visually appealing artwork. And then these damn hipsters ruined it all, and now vinyl records cost a fortune. So I haven't really bought any albums in a while. But then again, I have a pretty good collection overall. But then Pancake showed me Spotify and the wonders of like listening to music without having to get up every 22 odd minutes to flip the album over. And I started gravitating more towards like lyric-less songs. And at this point in time, I'm a huge fan of C418. I'm just gonna like type it out here, because like it may be hard to, like, in case I'm speaking poorly, but like that is a great thing. Like, it's no lyrics, and I just enjoy putting it on because it's kind of like pleasant background music, and it kind of keeps my mind a bit clearer, so to speak. Whenever I have songs with lyrics, I tend to usually sing along, so I memorize it, and then it can potentially make me not able to concentrate as well on whatever task is at hand. Whereas lyricless stuff, I tend to be able to focus better. It keeps my head kind of clear, no like weird chatter or anything. I've definitely gravitated more towards this as of late, and I do enjoy the convenience, but I still use my turntable from time to time, but nowhere near as much as I used to. In fact, Pancake and I have like used Spotify so much because I just end up playing it when I'm at home all the time. And then AK Abely says, have I read the Three Body Problem trilogy? Yes, I have. It's actually my favorite sci-fi series of all time. In fact, my mom is actually reading Death's End, so she's read book 1 and 2. So, like, I think it's great. It has big ideas that haven't really been like explored that much in sci-fi, or at least Western sci-fi that I've read. Like Three Body Problem is written by a Chinese author who is infamous for sci-fi writing, and he does bring new ideas and twists or takes on some like conventional ideas. And I thought it's tremendously wonderful read. I highly recommend anyone out there who is interested in sci-fi take a look at the Three Body Problem trilogy. It is fantastic. Next is Ramen asking, why do we cook bacon and bake cookies, and when they're named that way? Well, to be fair, English is confusing, but I do enjoy your puns nevertheless. Raul Bastida says, do I have any pet peeves, things that annoy me? I'd say people who are on their phone excessively. Like, I'm a bit older. I was born in 1990, so I'm 31. I'm actually turning 32 later on this month. And I didn't grow up with a cell phone in my hand. I only got a cell phone like partway through high school, and it was so dumb it couldn't do anything. Like, it was a flip phone. I could make a couple of calls, but that's it. There was no texting, no data, nothing. Eventually, I had maybe a smarter phone, maybe in my last year of high school, maybe first year university, but it didn't do much, so I never got into the habit of being, like, say, addicted or, like, constantly on my phone. And in fact, my current phone nowadays is my mom's old one. It's probably 5, maybe 6 years old at this point, so I don't do actually anything on my phone. So what annoys me is when people are on their phone constantly when you're in person with them, and it's just kind of weird. It's like you're trying to interact and hang out with that person, but they are on their phone instead of being in the moment. It's kind of weird. And then the best part was, like, maybe we're, like, say, watching a movie together and someone says, wow, look at all those people, like, just living in the moment, not a phone in sight, like, that kind of idea, because it was, like an older, like, a movie set, like, say, like, before cell phones, and then 5 minutes later, they're on their phone while the movie's going, and they miss stuff, and, like, to me, it's baffling. Like, even when playing board games, I have one friend who is on their phone probably too much, and I have to constantly remind them, put down your phone, we're playing something. So that's just my personal pet peeve. I like just being present and in the moment, and like I said, I don't really use my phone for anything. Like, I play pad, and like that's it. So I don't use it really for much other stuff. And then Matt Schultz says, do I think Daytona is the largest jump in power level the game has seen so far? Only the contenders you think of are the original Heartcross meta, Dark Athena, Mega Woken, Dark Metatron, maybe Yugi, Remu, Dante. I don't think it's a huge jump in terms of power creep. It's just easy to play, and that's the biggest issue. Like, having enough Halloween Cottons makes it so you can dodge mechanics, in the sense that if you kill it before it hits you, which is kind of a big principle what I use when playing with my Daytona teams, is you end up dodging lots of mechanics. But the problem is that you can't one-shot stuff and you need to stall and dance. You're actually quite fragile. Like, various other comments have been given by the Wise One, Griff, and Sark, basically saying that, like, Daytona, they only have, like, 11.11 times effective HP. Nautilus, Royal Oak, Seawolf, they all have 16 times effective HP. So, like, Daytona is actually quite fragile. They're just more glass cannony by comparison and just easy to play. They're nowhere near as big a jump compared to, like, Miru when she first came out. Because when Miru first came out, like, well, nothing could compare. Right now, Daytona is great, but Seawolf, Royal Oak, Nautilus, they're all great as well. And, of course, it comes down to your own team composition, what you have available, but I think they're great. But when no duplicates come up, when you actually have to tank hits, life becomes much more stressful. Beto says they've been reading through the Culture series by Ian M. Banks. Each is basically a standalone novel. The Player of Games in particular is absolutely amazing. If I might take a look at that, like, I tend to read like a book a month, and I'm currently reading Red Mars, and it's thus far quite enjoyable. I'm maybe like 100-odd pages in, I think. I can't recall. It's enjoyable, but I tend to only like to read sci-fi and dystopic style novels. I don't mind, like, say, watching fantasy or playing fantasy games, but, like, I feel like I just gravitate more strongly towards sci-fi. But maybe I'll keep that in mind, like the Culture series, if it's kind of falling into the parameters of things I like to read. Lettuce Juice asks, what do I worry the most? Well, it's my health and pain. Like, at least this particular day, a good example, like my neck and back are bothering me, but my wrists have been bothering me for the past couple of days much more than before. And at this point today, it's 1:41 p.m. I've done virtually nothing that used my wrists. Like, I tried to balance it. I had to cut some stuff up to prep for dinner. I prep food ahead of time, and I had to use my left hand, switch to my right, alternating back and forth. But I tried to do almost nothing to my wrists to let them rest. And my biggest fear is just pain getting worse to the point where I can't function or do stuff. Because right now there's lots of things I want to do, but my wrists are hurting, and I'm just basically saying I'm not going to do stuff instead. So that's my biggest fear at this point in time. Kyle Schmidt asks or says, Happy New Year, Mantastic. Love my videos. And they recently got Spirit Island. Fantastic choice. It's my favorite board game of all time, but they haven't got a chance to play it. What is my favorite spirits to play and why? Well, I'm a huge fan of Bringer of Dreams and Nightmares. I play it quite well. Like, I can play it as a support and a carry. I find, thematically, it's a well-designed spirit, but it's difficult to play well. And I always play minimum 2 spirits. So when I play solo, which I do often, it's two-handed solo. So it's me controlling 2 spirits simultaneously, because the interaction between spirits is the best part of Spirit Island, and finding cool combos and things that actually work. So Bringer with Ocean is amazing because you turn your push into drown, which is more fear and more happiness for Ocean. Things like that. I don't know if you may just have the base game, but Bringer of Dreams and Nightmares can pair well with Serpent. A lot of cool stuff you can do with element donations and just ramping up fear to the point where you can win through terror. I think my best I've ever done was 70 to 80 fear in a single turn with Bringer of Dreams and Nightmares in a 2-player game, and I basically just instantly won right after that because it's oh, here's all this fear. Oh, we went through the whole fear deck. Good game. But right now they want to try Thunder Spirit here, but here's what I recommend. Well, if it's your first time playing, I highly recommend you play River, because River is the best at teaching you how to play the game from all the base spirits. Lightning is strong, but Lightning has so many problems, especially in true solo, that they need someone to kind of carry them along, because Lightning gets trapped in a reclaim loop. Basically, they have to end up reclaiming over and over again. It's just tough to actually grow and build out from there. Whereas River can do quite a few things on their own. They teach you how to push, and pushing is a huge part of Spirit Island in terms of manipulating invaders and denying builds or stopping ravages. So I would start with River first, and maybe Lightning afterwards if you really want, and then you can branch out from there. Santiago Gonzalez says, not sure if I've answered this previously, but I'm interested in the Chinese. I'm not going to try and pronounce these words, and if so, what are my favorite books in that genre? I have never read any books in that genre. I actually had to look it up prior to this video to make sure it wasn't the genre I've read before, and I didn't actually remember. But point is, I don't actually read this genre. Like I said, I primarily read sci-fi and dystopic stuff at this point in time. X-Random Donald says, hey, Mantastic, their girlfriend discovered JP Pad. Do you think that they should make an account for her or keep it NA only? Well, why is she wanting to play on JP as opposed to NA? I feel like you play on NA primarily, so playing together I thought might be the main appeal. But at the same time, if she's happy, why not just let her indulge? Ruben Ortiz says, can we see all my teams in building, please? What is the best leader as well? And Happy New Year's, everyone. I might end up doing a box tour soon. I actually passed 3,000 days kind of recently, so I'm probably going to be trying to put something together or just record that next time I stream, so you can look forward to that. In terms of what are the best leaders now, I'd say the top 4 are all the transforming, like Daytona, Seawolf, Nautilus, Royal Oak, and Royal Oak could pair of Natsuro, Nautilus could pair of Christmas Manoa, but those 4 tend to be the big ones. Yuji Mojito is also quite strong, I feel, but the level of power I feel is just a little bit lower by comparison. Noob says 191st comment. Not quite, but amusing nevertheless. Hector Latour says, hey, I love your videos. Just wanted to get my thoughts on the top 5 lever cards for endgame content. Ha! Funny enough, I just said that already, but Daytona, Seawolf, Royal Oak, Nautilus, and their various pairings, so Nautilus with Christmas Noah, Royal Oak could potentially pair of Natsuro, but those 4 are the big ones. And then Yuji Mojito I feel like would be the next top 5 afterwards. But again, it all comes down to what you have available in your monster box, and certain dungeons tend to be more favorable for certain teams overall. Bro Dude Man Bro says, thoughts on Red Submarine Seawolf? Do I own him? I do own him. I've done a couple of stuff with him. I've cleared Shura 3 of him. I'm probably going to put together maybe an Alt MD1 for it. I have the subs for it. Everything is 120. It's a matter of just getting down, recording it. When my wrists feel a little better, I'll try and play through that and make it clear. But I think Seawolf is great. And the fact that a farmable sub is available that's actually quite powerful is meaningful through the Yin Yang Dragons. Matthew Ing says, any plans on updating my checklist to include all the newer stuff? I really should. Like I said a bit earlier in the video, my wrists have been bothering me. I'm not doing much. That's partially why I've been neglecting my website and focusing more on YouTube, because any kind of typing, even voice to talk, is so cumbersome and clumsy at this point in time. And I just don't want, it's not worth hurting myself for like how much money it earns. I earn virtually nothing, so it's not worth hurting myself for it. So I'm kind of waiting until like maybe things settle down, but maybe they won't, or maybe I'll find a way to do it. I don't know. I need to get around to that at some point, I feel, but yeah. Brandon Wong asks, am I learning any new skills this year? I don't think any new skills would I necessarily be doing, but it's more so refining and improving upon my existing skills. So one of my favorite hobbies to do is miniature painting, and I have been learning how to paint left-handed as well to compensate for my wrist pains. And one thing that I've gotten into, at least later on in 2021, was like glazing and kind of blending colors together to create interesting color contrasts or just interesting like OSL effects. So I grabbed a couple of minis of like the newer stuff I painted in terms of things that I kind of want to show off. So the idea of like glazing is you apply like a thin translucenty layer of paint that has a color, and then it shows the undercolor through underneath. So it kind of gives that illusion of like light or dark. So like using zenithal priming, so like you prime in 3 colors, matte black everywhere, gray at 45 degree, pure white vertically to create an illusion of light and shadow. It's just an interesting way to do so. So hopefully this will focus. Is it going to focus on here? Yes, kind of. Well, you can kind of see all those different colors. Not the best, I guess. I don't know. Hard to show. I might have to get pictures, but like I've been experimenting with like glazing and like color blending. This might show up better. Like he's quite fiery, and you can see how like the come on, focus. Stop focusing on the Supertramp album. It's hard to show, but like you can kind of see that it is a gradient on the cape itself. It's just terrible. My webcam is not the best. I invested in a good microphone, not a webcam. But the idea is like I'm trying to like experiment more of like blending colors together, creating like interesting color contrasts. And I know who you are, Mizo, so I could probably just message you a picture of it itself, like the better stuff I've done. But that's kind of what I'm trying to do, like improve on my miniature painting, get better at this glazing technique, like just refining it, like even like just like some like highlighting touches, like, oh, nothing can be seen, but you can, whatever. It's hard to see. Poor camera is poor. But yeah, basically I'm going to try and like improve upon my miniature painting skills. And like I have a cabinet full of miniatures, and I started early 2020, and it's been basically 2 years, and you can see my progression from like my first stuff to like my newer stuff. So I want to keep improving upon that. And then finally we have Ricky F. Saya says, hey Mantastic'c, they want to ask 2 questions. One, they know this is kind of minor, but I use 2 devices when changing accounts on every REM Rules video, so that each device has their own accounts. Yes, it's my current iPad mini and my old iPad mini is what I use for my 2 accounts. And you run 2 separate accounts, 2 separate devices, so I can self-co-op with myself. And then question 2, relating to pad, is the New Year's A10 could be one of the answers to use for VDP latents on rainbow teams. They've seen JP people damage cap A10 on both main attributes, on both their attributes, so it makes sense to use VDP latents. Well, the thing is, like the VDP latent, like it's a cool idea, but when spawns have billions upon billions and billions of health, you need every single card to be dealing enough damage, because one card may not be sufficient with the VDP latent to actually pierce through and do enough to kill it. So running cards that still void damage, what I feel like is gonna be important for rainbow-based teams, but haven't looked too closely at the New Year's cards yet because it's not here yet. So I'm gonna look closer when it does actually arrive. But what they're asking, would it replace the needs to replace VDP active skills, since they usually have 2 or more double cap units? The rest doesn't do lots of damage. Usually those cards are the only ones that need the VDP. Well, again, it all depends on the team composition itself and how much damage you need to deal. Like, there are very tanky spawns out there that are difficult to actually kill, even with 1, 2, maybe 3 hard-hitting cards. You might need other cards on the team and build accordingly. Like, I feel like Rainbow just struggles the most by comparison compared to Monocolor, just because you have to deal with mechanics that other colors don't actually have worries about. And then at the same time, Rainbow doesn't have a good 2-turn cooldown active skill that just lets you system your leaders and just constantly give yourself orb generation and attack buffing. So with that being said, that brings us to the end of all the various questions for January's question time video. So thank you so much to all you lovely ladies and gentlemen for asking wonderful questions. I wish all the very best luck in your own pad adventures. I look forward to February's question time, and happy puzzling.